Truth Frequency Radio Network. K-TFRN. Worldwide.
Hola, this is Sienna inviting you to join me tonight as we navigate through the seen and the unseen, explore external and internal realities, expose on-world and off-world agendas, discover a path to joy and freedom. Now, join me as we illuminate the Shadowland and reclaim our birthright as free and sovereign beings. This is Sienna, and this is Illuminating the Shadowland. Tonight, my guest is Zulma Reyo, who is a native of Puerto Rico, has researched a decade in Europe and India, has developed a coherent training on human energetic structure, and she has taken this to many different countries. Zulma is the creator of the Inner Alchemy project, begun in 1982 in the USA and transferred to Brazil. Her work is now focused on the feminine initiation process. The Feminine Mystery School in Mallorca began in 2012, where she offers retreats to awaken and develop women's unique abilities and powers to serve the needs of today. Welcome to the show, Zulma. There's so much to dive into here. I really sense that I'm speaking with a female master. There's so much misunderstanding. We're often looking at the shadows of the things that obscure our natural evolution and our positive destinies. And you bring such illumination to the feminine spirit. I hardly know where to begin. But I am going to ask you about power, about the eternal feminine power, about its characteristics. You describe it in your book, The Inner Woman, that, by the way, I am thoroughly inspired and enjoying, about its magnetic and electric capacities. And it's a huge topic, but I would like to open up with what is the nature of feminine power.
Well, the feminine power is different in the sense that it is different from the masculine power that acts, that is evident, that is sensed directly by its effects. Women inspire, and in inspire we gestate. It's like we create the vibrant field within which things emerge. So our very presence, anywhere where we are, is a powerful presence. We have been called distractors. We have been called confused. That wherever we go, we create distraction. In fact, what we do is wherever we are, we're constantly gestating new possibilities and new openings. It's like the presence of life itself, the presence of a dynamic vortex, of a womb of creation. Feminine power is as different from masculine power as a woman is from a man. And the difficulty in explaining this power is that it is not seen. Like woman herself, we have difficulty in discovering who am I or what am I, because we're so receptive to everything around us. Our whole bodies are constructed in such a way that we are sensitive, very sensible to any variant in any one of the different number of layers and levels of energy and reality. Now, this is happening to every woman all the time, but not every woman is as versed in the energetic understanding of the dynamics of life. And so a woman has difficulty in defining herself, and she has difficulty in recognizing her power, because she ignites, she reveals, she provokes changes. And our power is the basis of power of any sort, everywhere. It is the fundamental power. It's the power of creation. Just as we yeah, fine. We have a uterus, we receive the seed, and we gestate life. In the same way that we make babies, we make ideas. Men and women work together in the sense that in parallel journeys, as I never tire of saying, because whereas we ignited the atmosphere, a man receives that, and he in turn does his number, which in turn catalyzes further energies for us to create. Not that we do not manifest as well, but we perceive and affect and influence our world in different ways. A man's power is more tangible, visible, linear. Our reality is very concentric. It's experiential and existential.
Let me open up this topic of our emotions. I've heard you speak of the fact that to actually create a heart-based reality, that men and women have a different path, that men go through quieting the mind, going through the mind and quieting the mind, and women have to go through their emotionality. And I'd like to hear you talk about the difference between our emotionality, that sometimes can be quite reactive and quite egoic and quite wounded from everything that's happened in our history, to feeling, that you make the journey from emotion to feeling. And I'd like you to talk about that a little bit, if you would.
Okay. Emotions are created by our perception of phenomena around us. For example, we are all schooled in linear logic and logistics. And when we perceive a wave of energy, we interpret it. We reinterpret it as something having to do with us and our personal history. A woman is a born psychologist, and so we're constantly linking. And because we are receptive, we become, in a way, the center of our universe and the center of many families as well. And this is something that happens, let's say, ordinarily, spontaneously, because we don't have the kind of education that recognizes our differences and that studies and perceives the energetic structure of each gender. We are made to fit into the same mold as men who have a different structure. Therefore, we begin interpreting, we begin the personal history, the psychologizing, which I would term as emotions. Now, behind the emotions is sensibility, is a feeling world. And woman's journey into her own evolution, her own initiation, is passing from that state of decoding what she feels as being personal, as having some kind of a personal significance, personal meaning, to understanding the broader spectrum of reality. Emotions are forms of energy.
Okay, I'm going to get down here. All right, we've been in a patriarchal paradigm for thousands of years that has more than put down women, demonized. There was a Holocaust against women for 1,000 years. I mean, there's the place that you're saying that we innately have feels like it's strewn with a lot of reactivity that we don't even know we have, that we've been minimalized so much, and when we go into our feeling state, it's often full of a lot of traumatic memories, both collective and personal. And so from what I'm gathering, I'm just trying to understand here what you're saying, that there's a journey for a woman who wants to be this container, this birther of a new humanity, a birther of evolutionary possibility that is truly humane and a nurturer without sacrificing herself. There's so many parts of this. And also the fact that we are in a capitalistic society that has, the values are not feminine. Everywhere you look, they are as far from the feminine values as the commercialism, the greed, competition, and all the fear-based. I mean, there's so much here. how do we begin to really find this pure essence again? What are the steps we can take?
Yeah, I think we need to address ourselves to what is possible with people, with women already grown up, let's say, women who are interested, who have become aware of this situation and are trying to break through, to come out of that and be themselves. That's one level. And another level is our children. And I'm really betting for, in Spanish we say apostando por, the future and our children. And I really think we need to do everything we can as grown-up women to establish a kind of education where from childhood a girl begins to understand her nature. So she doesn't have to go through the reactiveness that we all have been through and invariably go through, no matter how much awareness we may have gained, because of our history, because of the way we've been conditioned. And this is worldwide. I wouldn't just put it on one culture. I've been trying to look into all different aspects of this through the different religions and our different ways of expressing ourselves, women everywhere. And we all have the same basic pattern, no matter what the culture has been, the same pattern of thinking, of the mind imposing itself and qualifying the perception. So we have not made a distinction. I think this is something that the 21st century will do and that the feminine cycle will definitely is bringing in, which is these new paradigms where we are aware of being as well as doing. And this is a very basic distinction at least in my work, and which helps woman to understand herself. Woman is a sensible organism that is receptive to being, to life in a being state. Now that being becomes something, a form that we give shape to, and then we are doing. But to participate in the flow, to understand and to feel it, is part of women's task. And this is what I'm working towards, and either as grown-up women or as children, to begin to decode these perceptions by frequency, by energy, and what level are they coming in from, what do they mean, and not just to me personally and to the history, but what are they conveying in the broader, more dynamic range of things. So what does this mean to me and to my world, and how can I be useful? And here's where women can begin to managing their own bodies, their own energy dynamics in plural. She can begin to diagnose more precisely what's happening and influence it, because energy goes both ways. One is receptive, and the other one is dynamic. It's active, it's building, it's constructing. And feminine construction happens in a different way. We influence things. We influence things either directly or indirectly. We're best at it indirectly. And this is what influences reality in the sense of dynamic energies is the level of evolution, the degree of ethics, which I believe is another important topic to
Yes, let's talk about that. As women, as the space holders for, we could say, a new ethic, although it's probably an ancient ethic as well. What are the ethics that need to be brought back online?
Well, I think more than anything is, let me just backtrack a tiny little bit.
Absolutely.
And when we were talking about women as being emotionally sensitive, charged, reactive, which we are, and we are also excessively manipulative. Now, this manipulation, we must look at it also as a neutral term, because it is not always a negative thing. We manipulate people into doing things that they might not do elsewhere. We call it inspiration. But it is a form of handling of energy that a woman knows. I mean, we only recognize it in another woman. A man would not know what hit him. Another woman can see very clearly what is happening behind the scenes and where another influence comes in from a woman. So a woman's journey is from the emotions into this heart space that is not described as emotional, but as values, as justice. Now, there's an ancient goddess in Egyptian mythology which is called Maat. It's also a name that came to signify justice and the law, M.A. with an apostrophe A-T. And it was feminine, and it strikes me that it had to be feminine because we, as women, when we reach that vibrational frequency, which is the heart, which has a different polarity than men's, our vision, our influence is so wide, it is so compassionate and understanding, but not compassionate oozing with emotion, but compassionate in the sense of a serenity that envelops and allows things to be as they are, in this equanimity, in this space of true balance. Like, for example, we often call justice by the Solomonic. Solomon is known as being just and fair. And we remember the story of the Bible when he held up the child and said, whose child is this? And nobody would answer. And finally he said, okay, I'll split it in half and kill it and slice it in two. And the real mother said, no, stop. And it was this mother, it was this feeling that says, stop to reality. And this is what we're cultivating. You, in your way, me, through the writings, our speaking, for women today, to rise and to say, no, stop. Stop this splitting. Stop this qualifying. Stop this nitpicking. And let us begin to consider reality as a whole, as a feeling, sentient unit. And this is what ethics is about. This is that heart space where ethics spring from. And so it is something you perceive and you know to be right, and this is where you say no, or you can say yes.
Yes, absolutely. Now, you have in your book, The Feminine Solution, you have a number of archetypes there. I don't know if I would really like to get into some of those as perhaps a way of diving into the ethics you're talking about and the shadow aspects that have been imposed on the feminine that have her showing up in ways that completely violate her own ethical nature.
Right. Correct, yeah.
But that maybe we could dive into that a little further down the road. You speak so beautifully from the actual energy, which is what I love about you and your work. I can feel the feminine energy exuding through you in every moment, which is the embodiment that you're speaking of. And so it gives me confidence that what you're saying is really coming from what we call the Divine Mother, which is you, of course, but is also an embodiment of her. And it's beautiful to hear you talk. When you get into flow, it's like poetry. It's this exquisite flow. Would you say that is a part of the feminine power?
I would say absolutely that it is, and thank you for recognizing it in me as I recognize it in you as we resonated together, which is why we're here.
Yes, absolutely. So you've gone through this journey yourself, and you help people with you help women actually embody this. Maybe you would like to talk, and we can take this in another direction, Zulma, but perhaps you would like to talk about your work with women right now, where you see they are, the struggles they're having, and the challenges they have to embody the true feminine heart at this time. Gigantic topic, mind you.
It's a gigantic topic, Sienna, and let me just say that I didn't like women. When I was growing up, I always had boyfriends. I also had boyfriends, but let's say it was men, and in university, and as a young adult, and I married and had a child and all that, and it was always my best friends were men. And somehow I distrusted women. I mistrusted them. I had very bad experiences, as I think all of us had. There's nothing I think more awful than being betrayed by another woman.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we've all been through that, and it's devastating. I think it's worse than being left by by a man, by a partner. But we could also mention that. It's very, very strong because we are very powerful. So I never liked women, and I think it took me many years, and even when I was teaching, I wouldn't say that I didn't like women, but I preferred the male mind and men friendship. They seem to me much simpler, which they are. They're less complex, infinitely less complex. And then I began, something within me began to move, and I wanted to really understand what it was to be a woman. I was always accused rather than praised for having a male mind. I was told that I was very masculine in my mind. And also because I'm very, very intense and I express myself very freely, that I could be aggressive. And so this is where this book began that you have in your possession, The Inner Woman, where I began asking the mother of God. I know there is a God. I never had to even question it. It's just a question. It's inside my very core. It is from there that I part, from where my being stems, from that heart center of light and of everything that I can't just say it's light. It's a vortex of. It's a window into infinity. And so I said, Mother, you who are the real mother, help me. Be my mother. I think none of us can really claim to have had a mother in this cosmic sense as well as in this physical sense that we needed because of our planetary evolution, because our mothers also had lots of pain, and so on and so forth. And so I turned to this force and asked, and this is where the some people would say channeling, or the connection came through. I don't like the word channeling. It implies that it comes from somewhere else than me. And me and you and we are all connected to the source, so there's nothing outside real. And so answers began to flow, and I began to come closer to women. And I was very gifted in having a very special friend who began to teach me what feminine friendship can really be about. And I was already a big girl in my 40s, 50s, to have experienced this. And here's where I really began to understand why I was reluctant, why I was, in a sense, rejecting or afraid of coming closer, more closer to my own nature and to what a woman is. And so, coming from this experience, I see, and because I also see energies, I understand women, and began to. The big question came to me 2 years ago, just before I published the book. Is what am I doing? Is what I'm doing really helping the world? I want to do something that really makes a difference. And here's where the answer came from, within this same center where all springs from, is work with women. Women can make a difference. And a woman is what makes a difference in the world.
Yes. Okay, we're going to break right now. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Zulma Reyo. Welcome back, everyone. This is Sienna Leah, and I'm here with Zulma Reyo. I really appreciate you sharing the more intimate details of your life, because that makes it for us who are feeling it with you, able to sense into you and this much more. So thank you for that. I would like to know how you see the time we're in and what caused such a huge shift in you to dedicate yourself to these beings that you had such an aversion to.
Well, not quite aversion, but let's say reluctance.
No, I mean, that may be too strong, but we understand how that could happen.
Okay. Well, the thing is, before I go into that, woman is always intimate. Now, this is one quality that we have that we do not use enough. We do not use enough in the northern hemisphere. We use too much in the southern hemisphere. Somehow, a kind of a balance has got to happen.
Yes.
A woman is always personal. And this is what makes us women. We have to be personal. We have to be intimate. We have to dare to be intimate. Dare to be sensible and to appeal to the sensibility and sensitivity in others. Men are hungry for it. This is what they require. This is what they call for from us. So this is why I always try to bring my own experience into it and elicit the personal in my teaching, even though my teaching can be very abstract from all these energies that I deal with, but it always parts from the very humane, the very particular. So let me say, let's say that I pose a question to myself and I wait, and you can say meditation, and an answer begins to come. If it doesn't come right away, it comes to me in sleep, or it comes to me in this in-between state of reverie. And the answer not always comes clearly as words. It can be a symbol or a concept or a feeling. So it can come through a number of ways. The date 2500 came to me very, very clearly as being the date where the feminine cycle really takes over completely. Now, it doesn't mean that it begins then. It means that it will everything will be ready. Everything has already been implanted, which means that we're doing it right now. So we only have 400 years, and really 400 years is very little for all that we have to do. And all that we have to do is basically change the whole mental programming of the human race, which is no small thing. And it's this programming which is based on this doing, linearity, appearance, superficiality, external power, competition. Competition is not just the business model. It's been on Earth forever. And this has got to be modified. And how is this going to be modified or changed? Through sensibility, through women making themselves very active, reaching, igniting, awakening the feeling centers of humanity. Now, I'm not talking of the emotional. This is where the work that we are doing right now, you and I, is setting the stage for those that our children are going to be doing. So we're setting the stage and making the distinctions. Hey guys, it's not emotion, it's feeling, or emotion is feeling. Look at it. It's like, hey, you're having a problem. This is terrible. This horrible thing happened to you. Well, look at it again. It's not horrible. It's not terrible. It's not black. Within blackness there is light. Within light there is darkness. Look at the whole. Look further. Feel. Open. And this is where our education with our children begins, and our own changing, let's say, opening our minds to the duality which is encompassed in it, instead of taking sides. Now the ancients, and I know I was talking about revelations, so part of it is going back in time, and I have done that with my own self and in historical time. And there was a time, and I've been trying to find proof for it, and it's just nowhere. There were cycles, there were feminine cycles, and they're so far back in our in what we define as chronological time, into perhaps in astrological eras of antiquity. And there's some of it still that we perceive through Egyptian history, which is the oldest one that we have, Sumerian art, and so on and so forth. But there were times where there were these feminine ethics, and it was an ancient feminine cycle. So the 2,500 is the end of a 5,000-year cycle of male expression. I don't want to use the word dominance because it has been good. It has been a cycle of building, of creating, of power, developing power in a sense that it destroys, builds, expands, and makes concrete. And woman has had a subservient role in that. We have been supporting that, and this is a way that it has to be. Now, if we go before those 5,000 years, it's very difficult to find documentation. If we go back 10,000 years, it'll be even worse, and 15,000, even more difficult. But there were times, and I'm getting evidence of this constantly, and what I always tell women is look inside yourself, because as I have a link, I don't want to be put on any pedestal, and I do not belong there. I'm no goddess. I'm no different from you or from anyone else. I just happen to know a little bit more, perhaps have been at it a little bit longer, but you have the same abilities, the same capacities of tuning in, and what you tune into is your heart. Not your heart for a reason, not your heart because. There is no because. Just your heart for you, because that is what life is. This is where flowers unfold and infinite petals of existence and colorings. This is where you know. And at first we're floored by this. This is so beautiful. We space out and want to stay there forever and never come back. But beyond that spacing out, this is where the training comes in, Sienna. This is why the necessity for a feminine mystery school. We need to train women's minds to encompass what the infinite within her already knows. We need to translate that through words and through concepts, that it may teach and create the new forms that we are gestating right now. So it is not just spacing out. It's not just being nice and kind and beautiful and soft and so on. No, we're incredibly powerful, and we need to make that link within ourselves. This, you can say, comes through revelation. It comes through my own thinking. My own thinking now is so linked to who I have been in so many incarnations that I have connected to, that I can no longer distinguish what is happening right now and what am I creating now or what is coming through. It's a flow. And this flow, because of my personal experience, is something which I try to encourage women and try to guide them through those steps of finding their own connections, of finding their own signs and decoding it. But we need to get rid of a lot, I would say almost everything that we have come to use as parameters of what is correct, of what is good, and because with the good we have also created the bad. With the light we have created the shadows.
Yes. The shadow aspect is so prevalent in terms of the built-in invalidation of the feminine. That in order to succeed and be competitive and, it's all now image-based, superficial-based, linear-based, it's manipulative, and it's suppressing so much of what is really in the unconscious of humanity, because we have this knee-jerk reaction not to venture through what we call our own shadowland and transmute whatever ghosts we have in the closet, ancestrally, collectively. We don't need to be afraid of anything that's inside of us, and we can befriend it all and love it all and appreciate it all and bring it out. But at the moment we find ourselves, I find, for example, if you go to a poetry reading, The men go up on stage, and they can be the worst poets in the world. I don't mean that all the men are the worst poets. There's some great poets, but the ones that are really bad and just, they get up there with a kind of confidence. And the most brilliant woman poet can stand up there, and she's energetically apologizing for her sheer being. It's so built in, the mind control, that the feminine is worthless, is less than, and it's so uncomfortable to carry that. I totally understand why women are just dumping it to be in a male ethic where they can just feel the male power and get things. And there's so many of the great people start with an authentic connection to their being in this essence, and they sell out. Even the great artists, the great musicians, you see it, the ones that rise to the top in politics. Every woman that I see that is a power figure is sold out to the dark side and to this to the patriarchal grid. I don't know if you would agree with that statement.
I absolutely do. We're absolutely in the same track. As a matter of fact, right now I'm writing my article for. I wanted to address it to executive women. I don't know if I'll get through because there's a real bulwark around them. There's these incredible barriers. However, like you, I can understand why they are doing it. And what I'm trying to get through to them, I don't know if I will, but anyway, somebody will hear me, is you need a different energy. It's a question of energy dynamics. In order for one energy to win over another, if they're the same, they're just going to be in antagonism. You need to have a greater energy that will soothe and envelop the other. And women are not using that. They have it. Every woman has it. And she's not using it because she doesn't know. So we need to go back to education, re-education, to get the concepts through. And who's going to push these concepts through if it isn't women who have experienced this space of openness in the heart, that are communicating using words. So we do need to use the word. We do need to use everything that we've learned in the educational system, which has been the same for men as for women, I think in the West, of course, that has been the same, and we need to use all those tools. Even in business, we need to use the same tools, but in a different way. And this is what I'm trying to communicate. You need to be in yourself. The answers will come. The energy will break through the barriers. It's very fashionable now to speak about breaking through, what do they call it? The glass ceiling. And what I'm trying to say is there is no ceiling. You're fighting against your own phantoms of belief.
It's incredible. A lot of the very successful women brilliant women, beautiful women, talented women, hardworking, disciplined, focused women get to the top or their glass ceiling, and they can have a breakdown. They go, is this all there is? Because if we don't have a feeling connection, it's all for nothing. We can't experience it. So, and this is the big aha.
That's good. When that happens to those women at the top, they begin to open up. But it's the women in the middle who have not gotten to that experience and who keep hoping with this phantom of a hope that is seeded into them, that they're going to get it. That it's financial and pushy control and power is going to get them happiness. That they're going to get everything through conquest, external.
Well, those are role models, right? I mean, look at who wins. It's the bully, right? Who's in charge? These greedy, cold-blooded types that have no consideration, that own the banking system, that own the world, that keep everybody. So people get tired. They get tired of having their head held under the water and be almost drowning. The indigenous people, the minority people, the women. There's so much pain in the history that you cannot blame anybody for going, look, I don't care anymore. I'm getting me some. I'm going to get it the way it's gotten on this planet. This is how you do it, and just get out of my way. And it's so sad. I see it here in South America so much. These beautiful indigenous, heart-based, earth-based people that are just sucking in this paradigm, this crappy paradigm, hook, line, and sinker. They're tired of having zero mobility, even though that they are happier than most Western people with absolutely nothing. But they're getting super seduced. The whole third world is getting super seduced into this, and it's such a crisis in that way. So it's true, getting this message across, but it's so difficult when people are under so much stress, pain, illness, and oppression.
I would agree, and we have to then intelligently look, where can we make a difference? Where do we need to concentrate our energies? But obviously, we cannot help these people. I mean, you and I, at least I can. Maybe you can.
My attempts so far to have any impact on these people, I have not succeeded, other than just making a heart connection and living side by side, not trying to change, not trying to bring anything different. There are some brave warriors down here they're standing up for GMOs. They're trying to make, it's just slow, plodding, super challenging, slow going. But to actually, I'm finding that, the normalization of abuse is rampant in the whole world. It's rampant down here, where the women support the patriarchal model, where their children are getting incested, where they're getting beaten and violated, and even though they come for help, when help is offered, they demonize the helper, and they don't want any. They really just are in the post-traumatic stress. They're hiding. They don't want to move. They're traumatized, like hurt animals that just hold still and go into caves. It's very challenging.
I can see that. I know that. And it can be very, very, very distressing. Now, I have centered on that. I have meditated on that. And where can I make a difference? I'm coming back to that. Is I can only make a difference with a certain kind of woman who has had certain kinds of experiences, who will in turn make a difference in all the levels that she can. I cannot change the world physically. I can only invite women. I can only inspire them. And each one of us is going to work out our way. Now, if you know a little bit about how evolution works, what the progress is of lifetimes and the levels of evolution, you will know, just as we know that somebody who has never had, all the luxuries and lifestyle will need to have it before they can say it's not important. Because one thing is to tell them something, and another thing is them living through it. Unfortunately, the human being has got to suffer before they stop suffering. This is very difficult to accept because we want to heal everything. And part of the Western, illusion is that we can go in there, buy everything, and tell them how it is, yeah? And they're going to change. And they're going to become like us. No. First of all, we've got to see where they're coming from. And I think you recognize that a lot. I mean, particularly in South America and the indigenous people. They're incredibly beautiful. I would just wish to spend my entire life there and not have to go back to the so-called Western world. But they're not happy. Or they are happy, let's say, temporarily. The moment they're exposed to Western culture, then remember they're exposed to all these tentacles of temptation, and it reaches right into parts of themselves that they're not even aware of. Now, outside of the communities like the Kogi Indians in Colombia and Venezuela, the indigenous tribes are being penetrated, infiltrated all the time by this sinister force. And this is what is happening. This is what you're talking about. Now us, me in particular, I can only sit here, I can only write, I can only inspire, I can only speak about how it has been, about the greater cycles of things, about giving hope. And I think part of this information, part of this experience that I'm transmitting will help to assuage the tremendous pain that we feel. And this is another aspect. Just like women always has to be personal and intimate, she has to be ready to to feel deep, deep, deep pain. I'm sorry, but there's no other way out. There's no way. This is what we are born to. Not that pain is bad, but the resonance of human suffering within each one of our hearts and bodies is what makes us emit the nectar that we are as a mother. The mother comes through us not only to rescue and to give nourishment and to give what we call refuge, but also to inspire, to move on, and to give birth to new form.
Well, that is so beautifully said, Zulma. And it is what needs to be born. And you talk about that in your writing, how there is a deep level of feeling that goes beyond all the emotion of a lifetime, all the reactivity, that is the deep connection of the mother herself for all of life. And this is, and I want to hear more, because this must be a part of your feminine initiation process that you're teaching people with your feminine mystery school. Is that correct?
Yeah. The whole first level is about recognizing these two qualities, among others, that every woman has within her, and for her to come to terms with it in her way. And one of them is, as I said, the factor of intimacy, allowing yourself your sensitivity and your intimacy. The second factor is the most important, is allowing yourself to resonate with human feeling everywhere. And this means everything. And so we have built so many filters and walls and conditions and hideouts to protect ourselves from our sensibility when it is the greatest faculty we have. We have to be trained on what it is that we're perceiving. So this whole first level with the women is, as a matter of fact, going through several models through the history of our planet, and how a woman has experienced that, partly in relationship to men and our need to be filled with something, sexually, emotionally, mentally, because we're this receptive polarity. So it's understanding this from the experiential, feeling, emotional level. Hopefully, between the first and the second level, they go through a little bit of a difficulty. And we keep up with them through emails, through a group that we have in Facebook. We try to help the women to hold true to themselves what they have experienced in the first level. And then in the second level, we begin training. We begin right on, hands-on training with, okay, how do you protect, if you want to call it that, from these overwhelming forces that seem to devastate you, that give you pain, that create confusion. Where are they coming from, and where do you stand in the world through all that? And I hope so much, Sienna, to be able to do this in different countries and with at least seed women who will take this.
We do have a growing number of younger people that are willing to explore and discover their true reality and their hurts and their wounds and venture through the dark night, that are just soaking this in. They are truth seekers. They are way showers, and they're ready to dive deep and discover. And you are holding this place, an education in how to access the light at the end of the tunnels, at the end of the mind control, at the end of the woundingness. So I would, first of all, invite you to participate in that.
Absolutely, Sienna. Yes, count me in. I would very much like to collaborate, and I would so much like to be able to tell women how to do it. But as you see, it has to be done personally, because a woman has to experience her energy. And she's got to experience it with someone who knows and can see what is happening with her. And we cannot just do it. I wish I could just do it through books. I wish I could just do it through transmissions of the word, even in radio. But it is enough that it tinkles, that it tinkles in the aura of somebody who will, as you say, these young people who will again want to dive into it. But I need to get my hands on them, and I need to train people who will get their hands on other people. And it has to be done with hands, it has to be done with hearts, it has to be done from this posture of a presence, what I call the presence of being. It is no longer even an identity because it's not something that you define by attributes or even by one certain configuration. It is a presence within a dynamic field of energy. This is what each woman must become. Not that she relinquishes her identity, because we continue using this, this in this theater of life. We do use the personality, we use the form, we use what we've learned, we use the language that we have. But to know that we are this field of resonating, influencing, catalyzing energy, and to do it with women, with other women, and eventually we will, and parallel, because we're helping them as well.
Okay, that's our show for tonight. To visit Zulma, please go to theinnerwoman.wordpress.com and join us next week for part 2 with Zulma Reyo. We are going to dive into another hour with this fascinating woman. Bless you all. Much love. Have a great week.
You can only be what you are. When a man allows himself to embrace his male instinct for physical conquest and domination without exploiting it, he makes the space for the feminine in him, because he knows and feels safe in his own power. In strength, he also has the power to be vulnerable, feminine, without threatening his identity. His body knows what it is to be the custodian of the earth, the father of humanity and future generations, and it knows instinctively what it is to govern and to set norms, to open ways and to preserve. Cellular memory is his guide. When a woman dares to embrace her vulnerability, her opening to life and existence, her womb, her body, and her emotions in contact with the earth, using her seductive powers and attractive magnetism with awareness to unfold and to feel the intuitive magic that occurs within her as receptivity and processing of life's energies, she invariably taps into her strength as force, her masculine source. Her body knows what it is to be mother, lover, educator, naturally, perfectly. Cellular memory is her teacher.